Get ready. You're about to experience the life science effect. The most influential players in biotech, pharma, and medical device, bringing you their insights and inspirational stories. Are you ready to boost your career? Ready to set your medical innovation in motion? You have arrived at the right place. Every week, another industry leader, more insights, more inspiration, and tips you can implement right away to make your mark on the world. Welcome to the show. I'm here today with Angela Demaree, who is a doctor of veterinary medicine, the COO of Pinpoint Pharma, and so much more.
Well, thanks, Steve.
It's so good to have you. And I practiced that last line so many times that I had no idea what I was going to say after that.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
I'm glad you jumped in. I appreciate that. So Angela, as I said, she's with Pinpoint Pharma. And you might remember a few weeks ago, we had the CEO of Pinpoint Pharma on, Arun Giridhar. And so now we'll have Angela talking about Pinpoint Pharma. So that's my introduction. I know that by the time this show comes out, your website will be live, petsgetit.com.
Yep.
Right? And I wish I could say, so how are things going with the website launch?
I'm sure fantastic.
Absolutely.
Everything without a hitch. Of course, technology never fails. We
That's
all
right.
know that. And we would have had some really great interactions with our colleagues, or my colleagues, as veterinarians at the Indiana Veterinary Medical Association.
Good point.
And we're really excited to be a licensed pharmacy here in the state of Indiana for sure.
Boy, a lot's happened in the last few weeks since the last time we talked. No, I joke all the time. I have a personal podcast as well, and I joke all the time with my co-host about the temporal inconsistent nature of the show. It's like, how was your week since we recorded this show? Okay, so tell us, remind us first of all, because it's been a few weeks. This one's coming out a few weeks after Arun's. Remind us again what Pinpoint Pharma is. 21st century compounding pharmacy for your pets. So remind us what that means and why are you so excited about the website launch?
Yes, so it's a 21st century compounding pharmacy for your pets, and we can actually print the medicine in the exact dose that a veterinarian writes the prescription for. So no more cutting pills into 4 pieces and hoping, part of it doesn't dissolve and part of it's not under the couch or behind the garbage can, and really kind of making sure there's no more question, are these accurate doses? There's no more shaking up a big bottle of something and then drawing up a cc or the appropriate dose and hoping that it's all equally distributed when you're done shaking it. So we can actually print those into individual dose syringes, flavor it so that your pet will absolutely love it. Our pharmacists are ready and willing to talk to you to make sure that you get your prescription in a dose, form, and flavor that your pets will absolutely love, that's easy for you to actually administer, and that's exactly the prescription that your veterinarian wrote. So we're really excited about that and just really getting this information out to the public with the launch of our website, petsgetit.com.
Fantastic. And I want to hear more about that in a minute, especially as it relates to my now famous min pin, Basil, who hopefully isn't dead by the time this comes out. That would be awkward. But he could be. I mean, he may be dead as we speak. Who knows? But no, he's doing fine.
Oh, great.
He's
My fingers are
fine.
crossed. I'm
It's
pulling
just
for Basil.
At any given moment. But he's a wonder dog because he's almost died a bunch of times. But that's a story for another day. But thank you for pulling for Basil. Yeah. But let's talk about you for a second. So I led off with and so much more. So You're a vet.
Yep.
You are a COO at a startup.
Yep.
You have your own podcast.
I do. It's called Beyond the Stethoscope, and it's for busy professionals looking for more work-life balance, for how do you achieve your goals and accomplish your dreams when you are just struggling to, do work in life and all that entails.
So how did you, before you went full-time at Pinpoint, you had a consulting firm.
Yep.
that, as far as I can tell, you were consulting in all sorts of different things, right? So take me back. So what made you decide to go to vet school in the first place?
Oh my goodness. So I've always wanted to be a veterinarian ever since I was 5 years old. I'm absolutely that cliche story. And, my mom told the story where I would just be covered in ladybugs, and she was always afraid to put her hands in my pockets, not my brother's, because she was afraid of what creepy crawly critter would come out when she did the laundry. And I think my parents knew I was going to be a veterinarian when we took a field trip to the Shed Aquarium in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And I somehow talked the proctors of that laboratory into letting me take home my dissected fish on a 2-hour bus ride home back to Indiana.
Wow.
And so if you can imagine this 5th grader with a dissected fish wrapped very gently into a paper towel, carried it all the way home on a 2-hour bus ride to show my parents, hours and hours later, I'm sure, they wanted me to throw it away. And I wanted to show them all the parts and all of the cool things I had learned.
So the bus smelled like formaldehyde all the way home.
Who knows? Right? Fish anyway, yeah.
What was it, a big fish, little fish?
It was a smelt.
And okay, so where in Indiana?
So that was the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, and I grew up in Maryville, Indiana.
You did, okay.
Yep.
I grew up in Michigan City.
Oh, great.
Just outside of Michigan City. So
almost neighbors, yeah.
If we wanted to go to a decent-sized mall, we would go to Maryville.
Yeah.
We'd go to that mall over there. But so you're in 5th grade. That was 5th grade?
Yep.
You wanted to bring the fish home to show all the little pieces and parts, right?
Yeah.
And this was, you already knew you wanted to be a veterinarian.
Yeah, and we had
Veterinarians hate being called vets. I'm just curious.
Well, no, and the funny part is, people ask me if I'm a vet. I always ask which one because, I'm also a veteran.
You are, okay.
So, I always have to
So the answer is yes, right?
So, yeah,
You're a vet.
my answer is yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, your story just got even more interesting. Okay. So fast forward, you go through high school, you get ready to go to college. You already know you're going into some sort of, is it called pre-med still at that point?
Pre-vet. Yeah.
Pre-vet. Okay. I hear it's harder to get through vet school than med school.
Well, I think the only reason is because there are far fewer veterinary colleges across the United States than there are medical colleges. And then also, we have to learn all of the differences between all the species. So we actually are taught human physiology first, and then all the things that are different among all the different species.
Okay.
So my guess is that's where that saying came from.
I've always heard that it's, and a human can tell you where it hurts. Right.
Right.
And whether they feel sick and where they feel sick and what's going on. But the dog can't tell you. Yeah, the horse can't tell you.
Right. Right. So we probably the closest correlation would be to pediatricians. So their patients also can't talk or tell them where it hurts. And so we have a lot in common with pediatricians, it turns out.
Good point. I had not thought of that. Okay. So what college did you do?
Purdue.
A lot of Purdue people. Man, there's a lot of Purdue people, which is fine. I love Purdue. Was that undergrad and vet school? Because they
7
have
years,
hugely important vet program there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So did you practice after that? So you get your veterinary license, your veterinary degree. What do you call it? Veterinary degree.
Yep. So I got my veterinary degree and I was licensed, and I moved to Ohio for a year to do an equine, a surgical internship in an all equine sports medicine practice.
Oh, wow.
And then moved back home to Maryville and worked in equine sports medicine and surgery for a few years, moved to the northwest suburbs of Chicago and worked in an equine and companion animal practice before moving to DC to actually advocate on behalf of animals and the American Veterinary Medical Association and their membership.
What did that look like? Were you still practicing, or you joined a consulting firm or started a consulting firm? How did that work?
So that was kind of like fast forward. After I was in DC for about 3 years, advocating on behalf of the veterinary profession, then I moved back to Indiana and became the equine medical director for the Indiana Horse Racing Commission. Served in that capacity for 5 years, ensuring the health and safety of our equine athletes. And just a couple of years ago, went back to school for my master's of public health and started a public health advocacy and wellness strategic systems consulting firm. So that's PAWS Consulting.
Clever. What'd you come up with first, the acronym or the what it stood for?
It kind of all came together to, at the same time.
Well, horses don't really have paws, though. So if you did the acronym first, it probably would have been hoof or something like that. Right?
Probably.
Well, I know at least one of our listeners is going to be very interested in that background because my daughter is she rides horses competitively.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm going to make her listen to this episode.
No,
so that she gets
great.
to hear at least that part. Well, my wife used to ride competitively as well. So.
What discipline?
So my wife used to ride English, and my daughter rides saddle seat.
Oh, great.
So
great.
It's a big saddlebred horse lover. So the great American saddlebred.
Yes.
So,
yes.
In fact, we just got back from Lexington for a big conference down there.
Oh, how fun.
So, yeah, that was fun. Okay, so somehow I'm trying to draw a line from A to B where you go from public health advocacy, equine veterinary association, and now you're with Pinpoint Pharma.
Right.
So fill in the gap there.
Okay, so last year I was at the American Veterinary Medical Association conference, and one of the questions on the conference attendee list this year was, would you be willing to mentor a first-time attendee? And I said, sure. And so Arun, our CEO, actually attended the same veterinary conference, wanted to speak with more veterinarians, learn more about what our struggles were in medicating pets and pet patient compliance as it relates to our prescriptions and prescription medications. And so we actually got paired up, maybe because we were both Purdue alums, I suppose. So we ended up having the opportunity to meet and connect and talk about this great and exciting new company. And here I am today.
So let's get back to Pinpoint a little bit. So what? So I know you didn't start the company, but you're instrumental in really getting it off the ground and launching it. So what's going on in this industry? What's going on with pet care or medicine? I know you sort of touched on this in the beginning. What was missing? What's the gap in the market that Pinpoint's going to be filling?
Sure. So I've had this unique experience of both being the veterinarian and writing the prescriptions for the pets and telling and counseling pet parents and pet owners how to administer medication. Here's your prescription, go get it filled here, and this is what you do. And then when I became the client, because I was no longer in a private practice, no longer in a place where I could be working with my colleagues, I had to get my own veterinarian, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to my veterinarian. I had a cat a couple of years ago. His name was Jack. Fantastic, big, fluffy orange cat. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And he ended up needing medication for hyperthyroidism and high blood pressure and, several different pills multiple times a day. And I'm having to split the pill into 3 and 4 pieces. And there was literally no support for this. It was, here's this bottle of pills. Here's how many ways you split it. And good luck getting it into your pet. And of course you will.
Yeah.
And I'm a veterinarian. And I am, a cat lover. And I've worked with cats all my life. And I know how to pill a cat, right? And I'm trained and I'm an expert. And I will be darned if that pill didn't end up behind the couch or split, just crushed, and I had to throw things away because I couldn't figure out how many times I was splitting it. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, there just has to be a better way. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be so much easier for pet owners to get medication actually into their pets. And so I'm really excited to learn about the technology that Pinpoint Pharma has and that we are able to actually measure each dose in real time. Traditional compounding pharmacies can be plus or minus 5%, plus or minus 10%. We're talking about plus or minus 1 to up to 3% at most. And we can measure out each individual dose in just a record amount of time. I think it takes us 10 minutes to print a prescription from the start to finished, and traditional compounding pharmacies will take an hour. And so we've got these economies of scale, and we're actually measuring the dose in real time. So when you get your prescription, it's the exact dose. It's exactly what your veterinarian had prescribed. And we're going to work with the pet owners to really fine-tune and understand what is that flavoring that that pet will love and take that medication so that you're preserving that human animal bond and it's not this really big struggle every time.
Yeah. So if I'm a pet owner, well, I am a pet owner. What's that going to end? By the way, we've been having CBD oil seems to be the biggest thing lately, and my wife wants to give that to our dog, and you're supposed to rub it on their gums. And I'm like hoping as soon as your website goes live, I'm going to type in CBD oil and find something. Probably not, but
No, not right away for sure.
Right. But he does take pain medication and things like that. So what does that look like? Right now, we have a bottle of liquid. We got to shake up. We got to get the syringe. We got to measure out the cc of stuff and like either squirt it on his food or in his mouth or whatever. What does it look like in the future when I can just go to petsgetit.com?
You will just have your veterinarian provide us with the prescription. It's very important. We can't do anything, and we would not compound any medication or fill a prescription if a veterinarian didn't write your prescription first. So we'll get that prescription from your veterinarian. We will contact you for payment and to ask questions and double check everything. We'll double check anything we need to with the veterinarian. It'll be shipped right to your door in a really awesome custom box, and it will come in all the individual syringes already. So there's no more shaking the bottle and drawing it up. It will all be preloaded into those dose syringes for you. You can still give it orally. Just keep it in the fridge. We might even do some really cool color coding or some other nice customizations for you too.
Think about my beef jerky idea. You might want to squirt it onto some beef jerky. I guess I could do that, couldn't I? I could just buy some beef jerky and squirt it on there. And
anything we can do to make your life easier, we are all about. And we may have to call it the Steve Vincent special or something.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you put my name on it, and that's enough. I don't need equity. I don't need any royalties. I just put my name on it. Actually, we'll call it the basil special. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I think everybody, in fact, the website should be live by now, petsgetit.com. Who are I hadn't even thought to ask this, and I didn't warn you, so just tell me you don't want to answer it. But who are the major competitors out there?
Well, of course, there are traditional compounding pharmacies.
Like a mom and pop sort of like a Nora Apothecary for pets. Is there a thing like that out there?
I'm not really, there are online compounding pharmacies in the veterinary space. There are your traditional neighborhood compounding pharmacies or pharmacies that could compound the medication for your pets as well. We're kind of like the combination of your friendly local compounding pharmacist who like and trust, who's going to do something very special and specific for you, for your pet, and making your life easier. And we're just online. Yeah. So it's even that much easier. You go to the veterinarian, you no longer have to go back to the pharmacy, back to the veterinarian's office to pick it up. Shipped really direct within 1 to 2 days at most. Yeah. So, we're really doing this customization on demand, and the printing technology gives us these really big efficiencies where we can do a really good job on making sure we get the dose, form, and flavor correct, and also do it in a very rapid turnaround.
Love it. Like I said when Arun was on, I'll probably be one of your first customers, so I'm going to go definitely check it out. So I think, we missed a big part of your background because you said you're also a veteran.
I am.
So when in this whole, from being a veterinarian to going to DC, when did you have time to serve in the military?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting story, actually. I was out in Washington, D.C. in 2007 to 2009. And I don't know if you remember back to the 2008 presidential election, but there was this resounding theme in the news. And reservists were just standing up at these town hall meetings and saying, hey, I've been deployed and deployed and deployed again. And, for 12 and 15 months at a time, my kid is 5. I've been home with him 3 months. When is this war going to end? Yeah. And ironically, I was also training for the Marine Corps Marathon at the time. And so I ran past the Lincoln Memorial and read the Gettysburg Address. It's up to each and every one of us to protect the freedoms that our founding fathers fought for. And I had a lot of time on this 10-mile run to think about what I had just read. And I said, if everybody would just serve a little bit, then it wouldn't be so hard on, the 1% of Americans who are really the ones being deployed and redeployed. And so that really inspired me to go ahead and sign up. I took about a year to go through the recruiting process. And so I went in 2009 after being a graduate doctor for 7 years as a captain. And so I've served for 10 years now. I'm now a major in the United States Army Reserves, and I served a 10-month deployment in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Kuwait and Kyrgyzstan, and a little bit of time traveling through Afghanistan.
That is fascinating. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
And that would probably be, if it were me, see, this is how humble you are. I've noticed you live your life very deeply and profoundly and very humbly. Because if I were a major in the Army, that's the first thing I'd probably wear the hat or something around. I'd be like, oh, by the way, I'm a major in the Army. Did you know that? That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Oh,
You went in.
thank you.
You went in. You said the recruitment process took a year. How does
Well,
that work? And you went in as a captain?
I went in as a captain.
Because of your veterinarian degree?
Yeah,
Is that
because
what-
of my
okay.
degree, yep. So doctors typically go in as captains, and they gave me
Okay.
some time in service for the 7 years I had been out practicing as a veterinarian, which is fairly typical.
Yeah, okay.
And so it just, when you're working with a recruiter, you're trying to decide whether or not to do this big life-changing thing as to joining the military. It just takes some time.
Okay, so that wasn't like a formal process. So that was you working with the recruiter to figure out, is this really what you want to do? Is this okay? And so you were in Kuwait for 10 months.
Yep.
During the invasion?
No. 2012.
2008. It would have been 20. Okay.
So
Enduring Freedom is the trying to.
Yeah, so it's the
stabilize
Afghanistan war.
Okay.
And I was
that's right.
actually in.
You could tell how little I know.
No
I'm
worries,
like this,
no worries.
What do you guys call people like me? You probably have a word for people like me.
Civilian?
Like noobs or something. Civilian. That's good. All right.
So
that was during the Afghanistan piece. You were supporting Afghanistan.
And so they actually did. I don't know if you remember that big troop withdrawal back in around September of 2012. I was actually there when they were pulling the troops out. And so I was really able to see, there in Kyrgyzstan, these numbers. I was reading in the newspaper what was happening, and I could see it firsthand. So that was pretty cool.
Wow, what a fascinating experience. You've had so many different experiences. It's so great. And now with Pinpoint Pharma, you get a chance to experience startup life.
Yes,
right?
I'm really, really enjoying that. The ability to bring new innovation and technology to improve the lives of people and their pets, I think really just brings together all of these experiences that I've had.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the podcast a little bit.
Okay.
But I may also ask about your Army experience as well as your veterinary experience. I reserve the right to ask anything I want. How's that?
Well, I'll reserve the right to answer or not answer, I suppose.
Perfect. All right, we'll be right back.
We are very proud to have the support of the Indiana Health Industry Forum here at the Life Science Effect. They have been with us since day one. IHIF provides guidance and leadership on public policy issues that contribute to innovation in the health science sector, deliver therapies to patients in need, and further the development and growth of their member companies. IHIF also works with the government and other groups to support specific initiatives and legislation. Also, if you need a connection in the health industry, give them a call. Go to ihif.org and they will hook you up. They have been a tremendous supporter of ours, so thanks again to the Indiana Health Industry Forum. Go check out ihif.org and support them like they support our life science community. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. We're still here with Angela Demaree, Dr. Angela Demaree. Again, I'm fascinated. I'm having a little fanboy moment here, I think. You've done so many different things, such a diverse. I can see the thread that connects everything. I heard a podcast, I forget who was talking, but they were a momentum. They talked about they follow a momentum. So if they're doing something and it's going okay, but something else comes up that catches their passion, they chase it and they follow that momentum. Is that how do you navigate through all these different things? How do you find the energy to bring to each new thing?
That's a really great question.
Or do you get the energy from it being a new thing? I mean,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah, that's
okay.
true too, right?
Yeah.
So I am definitely an extroverted person. And so anytime I have the opportunity to learn something new, something I do at the end of every day is I ask myself, what did I learn today and how did I serve today? And that really keeps everything in perspective for me. And really, we need to be lifelong learners and really live fully, right? Live our purpose in life. And so I really try to embody that as much as I can.
Why did you start a podcast?
I
Because you had a lot of free time and you were trying to fill it up.
No, there was this big empty space in the veterinary profession and for busy professionals like myself where I just wasn't hearing the information I was wanting to hear. I was wanting a space where we were supporting one another in our dreams, our goals, pursuing these big ambitious ideas, and then also saying, well, how do we fit it in with, work and family life? And it was just this really interesting dynamic that I really didn't. And to be clear, there's probably a million people doing this, but for whatever reason, I just felt there was this void. And I was talking about this idea with a colleague of mine, and she said, well, Angela, your voice isn't out there, so it doesn't matter if somebody else is doing it or not, and really encouraged me to pursue that idea. And I actually was listening to a podcast, and they said, hey, was there anything you used to do years and years and years ago that you really enjoyed, but now you can apply to the current technology and the current state of the world? And I was actually the morning radio show host for my high school radio.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, okay, all of these pieces are putting together, and I would just really love to have these conversations.
So like a morning drive time, radios, or did you play music, or what was the show?
Yeah, so when the high school students arrived, I was there at 7 a.m. And so people would trickle in, before the bell went off. I don't know, it was 8:15, something like that. And there was, this little closet where we'd be in, and I would read the announcements, which was our news or our commercials, I guess, and play the music. And when we were really lucky, there were CDs, but I had to, hand mix everything, so that was
that's
quite
awesome.
the experience.
So then you're thinking back to, you really enjoyed that experience, and nowadays anybody can broadcast.
Right.
Using the podcast medium, right? So your podcast is Beyond the Stethoscope. It's for busy professionals trying to fit it all in, right?
Right.
I've heard a few episodes, and as I was saying before we started recording, it's the ones I've heard of were people in the veterinary industry. But if I went back far enough, I would hear people not in the veterinary industry.
We're trying
right?
just to really have these conversations like, oh, I want to start a business. What does that look like? When do I decide? Do I want to be a subject matter expert, or do I want to be an entrepreneur and work for myself? And, so right now I'm really focused on career transition, thinking through like resiliency, mindset, positive psychology, and then just other really big ideas or big topics that are happening in the world as well.
If you do a political show on national politics, I bet you would get a lot of listeners. I also bet you would hate your life all of a sudden. But, so this resiliency mindset thing. Now maybe we will talk more about that at some point. But what do you mean by resiliency mindset?
I'm sure everybody's had struggles in their life, right?
Yeah.
And so part of my deployment, I actually ended up having 3 surgeries within 6 months time frame when I came back home.
Oh my gosh.
And, one was a back surgery, one was hip surgery, and one was an emergency appendectomy. So just random occurrence, right? Yeah. But really having the resiliency to work through that physically, mentally, spiritually, and get up every day and really live your life's purpose is something that, I had a great example growing up. My mom had multiple sclerosis. So she was diagnosed when I was 8 years old. By the time I was in college, she could barely walk, but she got up every single day and taught math to 7th graders.
Oh, wow.
But she didn't just teach math to 7th graders. She inspired her students to really go for their goals and dreams. And since I had that really great example in my life, it just really drives home, veterinarians have one of the highest suicide rates of all the professions.
Oh, man.
And a new study just came out from the CDC, and it's really something that is being talked about. And there's a big debate as to whether or not it's more or less or the same, but just irrelevant. There's, definitely some mental health concerns throughout the country with depression and anxiety. And so finding other ways in addition to, the supportive healthcare system and all of those tools, another option or opportunity is how do we work through and get around these barriers and hurdles and challenges in our life through the power of our mind and through being resilient and having a positive mindset. And what does that look like? How is that tangible? And what are those actionable solutions or takeaways?
I think there was some discussion in some recent episodes that you had around that topic. Do you have some others upcoming that'll?
Yeah, we very
talk
well
about that
might.
as well? Okay,
might. But we'll definitely keep you posted.
Oh, I'll definitely get posted because I'm subscribed.
All right.
Everybody, go subscribe to Beyond the Stethoscope. It's a good show. You know what? I feel like I could talk all day and continue to learn from you if we just kept talking all day. But unfortunately, we don't have all day. So I'm going to have to wrap up pretty soon.
Okay.
So let's start with, is there a book or an online resource that you would like to direct, aside from Beyond the Stethoscope?
Okay.
Which is fine too. Everybody go there. But is there another book or a resource that our listeners could learn from?
I really enjoy, or if you're really thinking through the technology space, the World Economic Forum is just a really good place to see what's happening in the world, what's up and coming. And they do a lot around the issues of public health as well, which are really important to me with my background. So that's something that I don't think I've heard before in a podcast. And so I just wanted to put a shout out to that.
Just go Google World Economic Forum. Is that where they'll go find that? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And they've got a website. I was introduced to them when I was at the World Health Assembly back in 2017 as part of my master's program, and was just really impressed with their vision and insight in both technology and public health, and just bring all of these people together to have these conversations and to solve big problems. So it's just a really interesting place to check out online if you haven't already. The other book I really I just read recently was Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. I haven't heard of that one. Who is that?
Oh, I'll have to look up the author. I didn't do that before I got it, but we'll make sure you have it for your show notes.
Absolutely. We'll put that in the show notes. Why do you like that book?
Because it's about incremental marginal gains, and it just talks about everything's hard and everything's impossible until you actually accomplish what you're doing. And they talk, I think it was the British cycling team, where they just said, how can I do this 1% better?
Yeah.
How can the seat be positioned 1% better for their bicycling team? And how can their uniforms be 1% more streamlined? And when you added those all up, they ended up winning the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of how the book starts, but it's just about this guy's story and journey about how he used that same theory in his own life and how you can use it in yours.
Yeah, that British cycling team story is a fantastic. I mean, they had nobody. The British just weren't on the radar in terms of professional cycling. And then if you didn't know what was going on, it was like almost overnight. Suddenly they're a world power when it comes to cycling. So with winning the Tour de France a couple of times, at least they had the overall winner in there a few times. So that's a great story. And I think it was on another podcast I was listening to, somebody used that same story about the British cycling team in a similar way. So I'm definitely going to check that book out.
Oh, great.
Yeah, absolutely. How can people reach out? Obviously, petsgetit.com.
Right.
How can people find you and connect with you?
I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn at Demaree DVM. LinkedIn's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Our website's petsgetit.com. The podcast Beyond the Stethoscope can be found at really anywhere you get your podcasts, but also at pawsconsulting.com.
Excellent. Well, everybody go check it out. I tell you what, you cannot do better than getting to know Angela a little bit and learning from her. I know I've learned an awful lot. So thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks, Steve. I really enjoyed it.
You have just experienced the Life Science Effect. If you liked it, Be sure and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And more importantly, tell your colleagues, tell your boss, tell your friends. It'll make you look smart, and maybe it'll even get you a raise. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, BPM Associates. Set your medical innovations in motion. BPM helps life science companies design, manage, and execute their most complex projects. What effect will you cause? Thanks to today's guest and to all of our guests. Who else should I be talking to? Send me an email at steven.vincent@bpm-associates.com. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and go make something amazing happen.